in the streets of London's East End, beneath a smoky fog that perpetually shrouded the city. The year 1933 saw the birth of two boys who would come to define a generation's underworld. Reggie and Ronnie Kray, a pair of identical twins, were born into a world characterized by poverty, crime, and the harsh realities of the Great Depression. Their mother, Violet, a force in her own right, was a fiercely protective figure. Their father, Charles, was an elusive shadow, a man more myth than presence in their lives. From their earliest days, the twins demonstrated an unbreakable bond. They attended the same schools, shared the same friends, and as they matured, found themselves in the same troublesome situations. Their identical faces often led to confusion, but those who knew them recognized that their personalities were as divergent as they were complementary. Reggie, the more level-headed of the two, possessed a keen business mind and a diplomatic disposition. Ronnie, on the other hand, was unpredictable and prone to violent outbursts, a trait that would later be diagnosed as symptoms of paranoid schizophrenia. As the twins navigated their way through adolescence, their paths veered further into the East End's criminal underbelly. Their journey began with small-time hustles, but with each successful operation, their ambitions grew. By their early 20s, they had established their own criminal enterprise, known ominously as Firm. Their operations evolved from basic protection rackets and loan sharking to running nightclubs and gambling dens. Their ventures were wildly successful, primarily due to their unique approach to business. They combined ruthlessness with charm, intimidation with generosity, creating a persona that was both feared and admired. The Kray twins, with their sharp suits and sharper tongues, were celebrities in their own right. Their establishments became hot spots for the rich and famous, places where actors, politicians, and even royalty could be seen enjoying the night. But behind this glamorous facade, a far more sinister operation was at play. Despite their public image, the Krays were not to be crossed. Their rule was enforced through a brutal blend of violence and psychological intimidation. No incident better captures their modus operandi than the murder of George Cornell. Cornell, a member of a rival gang, made the fatal mistake of insulting Ronnie Kray. His punishment was death, meted out in the middle of the Blind Beggar pub, a grim reminder of the twins' omnipotence and audacity. Their reign reached its zenith when they were photographed by David Bailey, a renowned fashion photographer. The image, featuring the twins clad in sharp suits, exuding an aura of untouchable power, was published in major newspapers, solidifying their status as the kings of the East End. However, the twins' audacity eventually led to their downfall. Reggie, who had often acted as the balancing force to Ronnie's volatility, was spiraling out of control following the death of his wife, Frances. His grief manifested in uncharacteristic violence, culminating in the murder of Jack Hat McVitie, a minor member of the firm who had failed to carry out a hit. This act was the final straw, marking the beginning of the end for the Kray twins. The long arm of the law, which had until then been largely ineffective against the Krays, finally began to close in. Detective Superintendent Leonard Nippereid of Scotland Yard was assigned the daunting task of bringing the twins to justice. Through painstaking efforts, he managed to gather sufficient evidence and convince witnesses to testify against the Krays. The twins, so long untouchable, found themselves ensnared in a web of their own making. The trial that followed was a sensation, capturing the attention of the entire nation. The Kray twins, the infamous rulers of the East End, were no longer facing down rivals in smoky pubs but defending themselves in the cold, austere environment of a courtroom. Despite their initial bravado, the mounting evidence against them was impossible to refute. In 1969, the Krays were sentenced to life imprisonment, marking the end of their reign. The streets of the East End, which had so long been their playground, breathed a sigh of relief. The firm disbanded, their establishments changed hands, and slowly, the city began to heal from the era of the Krays. Despite their downfall, the Kray twins left an indelible mark on the city they once ruled. Their story, a potent mix of glamour and brutality, became a part of London's lore. They were the embodiment of a paradox when brothers who rose from poverty to become part of the city's elite, criminals who were as feared as they were celebrated. Their nightclubs, once the height of glamour and decadence, stand as a testament to their era. Though under new management, they retain a hint of the Krays' influence, a touch of their infamous charm. The Blind Beggar Pub, where George Cornell met his end, has become a grim tourist attraction. Even the Krays' childhood home draws the curious and the morbid, those fascinated by the twins' extraordinary journey. The Kray twins live their lives like characters in a film noir, full of shadowy deals, violent confrontations, and moments of unexpected tenderness. They were villains, heroes, and victims of their own ambition. In the end, the Krays were not invincible. They were men, bound by the same laws and moral codes as the rest of society. They were brothers, bound by blood and shared experiences. They were twins, unique and identical, two sides of the same coin. Their legacy, though steeped in blood and shadowed by crime, continues to captivate, a darkly fascinating chapter in the annals of London's history.